Hello and welcome to Life Reviewed Movies. This is episode 12 and part 12 of my Planet of the Apes retrospective. Today I'm going to be taking a look at episode 3 of the 1974 Planet of the Apes TV show, titled The Trap. Let's get into the synopsis. Burke, Verdon, and Galen are being pursued through the mountains by Urko and his men. They manage to evade Urko and take refuge at a human village with a reputation of aiding fugitives. The trio realize that Urkel will quickly find them, though, and their rest is short-lived. At the village, the daughter of one of the humans is wearing a necklace made of electrical wire, and in her sack are non-functioning computer components. Vernon is told of a city close by, San Francisco, where the items were found, but they are warned not to go there because of frequent earthquakes. Ignoring the advice, the trio set off for the city moments before Urko arrives in the village. Urko makes the same discovery Verdon did, and guesses that the fugitives went to the city. Urko is right. He discovers them in the city and attempts to capture them. But when Urko corners Burke, the ground caves in and he and Burke become trapped in an abandoned and partially caved-in subway tunnel. Burke tries to convince Urko of the seriousness of their situation and their need for cooperation, but Urko doesn't believe him. When he shows Urko the remnants of human technology, Urko still doesn't believe him. Only when Burke tells Urko that the remains were actually built by the apes does Urko agree to help. On the surface, Verdon and Galen convince Urko's men to assist in rescuing the pair. After some negotiations, Verdon gets the ape commander to give his word that he will let the trio go once Urko is safe. In the tunnel, Burke and Urko are working together, but air is running out. While Burke tries to dig them out, Urko discovers a poster for the San Francisco Zoo depicting a human child giving a banana to an ape in a cage. Urko takes the poster and puts it in his glove. Meanwhile, Verdon has helped the apes create a pulley that clears the block and gives them access to Urko and Burke. But when Burke offers to let Urko out first, Urko shows Burke the poster and attacks. Burke manages to rend Urko unconscious, and they are pulled out of the hole. Once out, Urko regains his senses long enough to order his men to kill the fugitives, but when he passes out again, the ape that gave his word to Verdon orders the other apes to take Urko to a doctor. Once gone, the commander keeps his word and allows Burke, Verdon, and Galen to leave, but then finds Urko's poster and bitterly tears it up. So, I think this might be the best episode so far. Certainly it's the best performance out of the main human actors. Burke has a lot to do and spends a lot of time acting alongside Urko, and there's a ton of screaming and back and forth and physical acting that takes place. And I think it's definitely elevates just the performances to another level in this episode. But, starting from the beginning, it starts out with them immediately on the run, and there's some cool trickery where they sort of attack this signalman. There's a gorilla who's sending signals with reflections from the sun, kind of like guiding the other gorillas that are out hunting them where to go, and they use Galen as sort of to trick him, and then they attack him, and they send the gorillas in the wrong direction. And then they run off in a different direction, and Galen suggests that they go to Numai, this little village where, they're very it's a human village, but it's a safe place to go. And right when they go, this guy in the town is like, "Hey, where are you guys from?" And like, "Come into my house, meet my family." And he's like, "Oh, you guys, I was told to look out for two humans traveling with a chimp." And Verdon and Burke are like, "Well, that's not us." And he's like, "Of course not. I wouldn't say anything anyway." So, he's a trustworthy guy. They see the electrical wire hanging from the daughter's neck, and they're like, "Where is this from?" And she's like, "Well, I get it from the city." And then they experience an earthquake, and they're like, "Don't go to the city. That's where all the earthquakes are." But she empties her bag, and there's a bunch of computer components, and that's where Verdon has really been trying to, Verdon's really been stuck on this idea that they're going to be able to go home if they can get enough computer components and build something to fix their ship or whatever, which has been destroyed at this point. But he's still, holding on to some hope. So he's like, let's go to the village. I mean the city. They go to the city, and it's a great set. It's like a bandit. It's so reminiscent of the first episode of Walking Dead. It's like a totally destroyed city, and they're just walking through the streets. And at the same time, Urko has gone to the house and met with this guy in New Mai, and this is where the acting is like taken to the next level, because he's asking him all these questions and freaking out because he knows that they're lying, and he's pushing the family around, he's screaming at them, and he finds the wire and is like, I know they went to the city. It makes Urko into like a really intelligent villain. And he's like, we're going to the city. So immediately they go to the city, they see the humans. They chase them through this. They chase him through the city. They're all trying to hide, but Urko chases down Burke and basically hogties him with a rope. And Burke pulls him off the horse, and they end up. An earthquake happens, and a kind of like a sinkhole opens up. They fall through it, and if a piece of a building lands on top of it. So down in this sinkhole. They both kind of were knocked out, or at least like dazed. But when they wake up, Urko immediately tries to murder Burke. And Burke's like, hey, hold on a second. You don't even know where you are. We're in a subway. This is from my time. I know what everything is here. And, Urko thinks he's a liar. He's like, look, this is a telephone. Look, this is, actually some of the devices are like futuristic for the time that he's trying to explain what they are. Like, look, it's a pill that you can eat, and you don't have to eat any food for the whole day. And like all these like posters on the wall, he's trying to explain like, look, this is from my time. I know what this stuff is. I can figure a way to get out of here, but you're going to need to keep me alive. And Urko does not believe him. He's like, there is no time when humans, you're making this stuff up. Humans did not, rule over apes. This is total ridiculous. And still wants to kill him. And then finally, Burke's like, I got to lie my way out of this. He's like, you're right. This is a phone. This is all these different things I told you, but it's really apes who made it all. This is the past civilization of apes. Urko likes that a little bit better. Burke specifically doesn't point out the fact that there's a poster on the wall for the San Francisco Zoo where there's a gorilla in a cage and a little kid handing him a banana. It kind of just like hides that and, steers Urko away from it. And they start going about working together, running out of oxygen, but they're working together to build this ladder. And there's just this really great connection between these two characters that could kill each other at any point, working together to get out. At the same time, you got Verdon and Galen outside making a deal with the commander of the guerrillas to say, hey, your general's down here, our friend is down there, we got to work together to get them out. So same sort of relationships happening at the top. There's this awesome moment where Verdon is like, Verdon is like, hey, let me do some Morse code. Like, I'm going to bang, there's a metal girder that's going all the way down through the ground and into the sinkhole where they are in the subway. And he starts banging on it, talking in Morse code to Burke in the subway. And, it's kind of convenient that they can both speak fluently, Morse code, but they're talking back and forth, and the general gorilla thinks it's totally BS. And so he says, hey, what's Urko's wife's name? And he goes, Urko's wife's name. And he goes, all right, don't tell it to me. Ding, 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 taps on the girder. And then down in the sinkhole, Burke asks Urko, they want to know your wife's name. And he's like, I can't remember what he says, but he's like, this is what it is. And so he taps it back, and he's like, at the top, you have Verdon being like, hey, this is his wife's name. And he's like, how'd you know that? And Galen's like, are you an idiot? They're talking. Urko is down there, and he just told him. So, that convinces them, and the gorillas start helping, open up the sinkhole. And that's when, Verdon's like, I'm not going to do this unless you make a deal that you're not going to kill us once they get them out. And they finally, agree to that. And so down there, Burke says, hey, why don't you go over and get, help me grab something to Urko. And it's interesting because Urko is like, okay, human, okay. Like, he's finally, like, taken an order from a human, which is Like, he's finally broken down enough to be like, I get it. We got to get out of here. And he goes over, and when he moves it, he sees the poster. So he cuts it off, sticks in his glove, finds a piece of shrapnel, whatever, as a knife, puts in his other glove. As soon as the sinkhole thing is opened, he pulls the knife and the poster out, and he's like, this can't get out. You are a liar. You're evil, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to kill you. And Burke uses a light. Urko tries to stab him with the metal knife, and he uses a light to electrocute him, kind of knocks him out, ties him on the rope, and they hoist Urko up first. Then they bring up Burke, and Urko, wakes up and is like, kill them immediately. And the commander's like, I gave my word, and he's like, well, I have my reasons, and I'm your general, so do it. And he goes, then he passes back out, and so the commander up top pretends, okay, yeah, I'm going to go along with them. Hey, you guys get him to a doctor. I'm going to shoot these three. They ride around, and you hear the 3 gunshots. But obviously the commander hasn't shot the main characters, and says to them, all right, you guys go. Like, I made it. My word is my word. Like, get out of here. And the 3 of them sort of limp off. And then that's when he picks up the poster and sees that, the gorilla is being fed a banana through a cage by a human. And he tears it up in a rage. So, just a really interesting, for very limited set pieces. And this show continues to blow me away with the level of storytelling and just interaction that we never got to see in the films. Like, just simple moments where a human and an ape are arguing about the past in a situation like this where they need each other to get out. And I think the possibilities of what this show could have done had it had more seasons is only touched upon in these, first, few episodes that they made. Even the next episode, which is a step down from the quality of these first few episodes, still has this really human element to it that I found incredibly watchable. So, still loving this show. Absolutely recommend it. This has been my review of The Trap, and I'll have my review up of episode 4 shortly.